Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of New to Weeaboo. This is number 62 for December 15th, 2021. I am Nemesis and I am joined by Alcatraz here.
Hello.
Yeah, it's still December.
Still December.
Somehow.
It's very cold.
It's cold. It's very cold.
You know what makes it even colder? When you have no power.
Yeah, that's a thing. For you.
Yes. No power, no heat, no hot water.
Yeah. That must suck.
It does.
But you got it back apparently now.
It should be back, but
So you should be good now.
now I'm waiting for the internet to come back.
Well, you don't need that. But I do though.
I do need it though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No internet sucks.
No internet sucks. No power sucks worse.
Yeah. Let's see, anime things. There's something that popped up, I think. What was it?
Well, I mean, in general, there was something big did happen on December 8th.
Well, yeah,
a
the
certain
thing
game
we talked about last time was
it was
Halo Infinite.
Project Sakai Colorful Stage was officially released.
Who cares
on
about
December
that?
8th. But Tatsune Miku.
Shut up.
Hey, at least that one's a somewhat tangent.
Mine's tangent related
I
too.
know, because of Legends.
Which that was the other thing. Halo Legends actually did reference the Halo Legends anime in Infinite.
Yeah.
With one of the packs, you can get Daisy's little bear.
Yep.
Oh.
Aww.
Oh, there's this one thing. It was Keiko Nobumoto, a scriptwriter who said things like Cowboy Bebop, Wolf's Rain, Tokyo Godfather. She passed away on December 1st, apparently.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Yeah, so that's a thing, unfortunately. Oh, yeah, Netflix. This is Cowboy Bebop.
Canceled after one season.
One season canceled because, surprise, is not well received.
When you take the soul out of something, it usually doesn't do very well anymore.
So, yeah, those are some anime things that popped up. Okay, Beastars is getting a final season. They got a new logo. Apparently, some people are getting their big collector's Neon Genesis Evangelion sets. But anyway, yeah, so that's the stuff in the anime world that I can think of. But yeah, we're here to talk about some old stuff. Yes, it's actually old now.
Old stuff, yes.
And kind of related to last time's the topic of the Animatrix.
Yes.
Which was one of the first times I think actually this sort of thing happened with the big old anime anthology of a Western property thing. Not surprising, yeah, again, this is pretty much what clearly and obviously directly inspired it, like Halo Legends and, Star Wars Visions. It's pretty obvious, having watched, Legends and make the Animatrix back to back, you can kind of see.
You can definitely tell.
You can see, yep, they pretty much saw this one. We should do that too.
I want to do this.
But yeah, the Animatrix came out in June of 2003, right between the second and third movie, Reloaded and Revolutions.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, actually is tied in some of the shorts, actually tied directly into the movie trilogy. Well, soon to be quadrilogy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm doing this because, the fourth movie is about to come out.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It consists of 9 episodes. You got a 2-parter, which is more or less a lore dump, a CG thing, and and 1 or 2, which are kind of more on us leaning more into this. Let's do some artistic showcase rather than actual real in-depth storytelling.
Yeah, sounding very familiar.
Yes, like I said, the Animatrix stories from the Matrix universe, some more related to the movies themselves than others. Let's see, there's apparently 2 different orders depending on if you watch like the disc release or the theater release, and now apparently, like, for example, if you buy digitally, it's going to follow the theater release or something.
Yeah,
so it's kind of interesting, but there's a Blu-ray version now and stuff, and I also discovered that my old DVD copy is kind of, it's something happened to it because it just kind of stalls out on one of the episodes.
Even if you treat your discs right, they may still die.
Yep.
Better make sure to check that your movies are okay and try and get backups if you can.
Oh wait, they started making you can't do that anymore. They tried it. It's a lot more difficult, but you can do it.
You can do it.
Technically, you're now technically breaking the law because making a copy is not illegal, but breaking the encryption is.
Yes, that's a fun one.
That's the gotcha.
That's the gotcha there.
It's like, fine, we'll just encrypt everything. That's illegal to break. But anyway.
Yep.
So yeah, Animatrix, 9 different anthology shorts, and all by different studios, because only 4 or 5 studios on this one versus say Halo Legends, which had like almost every single one was a different studio. And we're going to go ahead and go with
4,
disc
yeah.
order because that's how we're going to watch it mostly until it kind of
Until the disc died.
until the disc just froze up when we got to a point. So anyway, for the first one is Final Flight of the Osiris. This one is kind of notable because it's the CG one, and on top of it, it's done by, well, it was Square USA at the time, and it's kind of, they've changed their name of the company as of, where is it to, where was it? Oh, it's Visual Works now.
Visual Works.
Still part of, Square Enix.
Yep.
Yeah, but basically this is one, their little thing they did. It's just more or less the Osiris, which is one of the ships from the Matrix. Remember the ships in the real world, they fly around and that's what they use to jack into the Matrix and all that stuff.
Like the Nebuchadnezzar that became famous from the trilogy itself.
Yeah, and the Osiris did make a brief, somewhat of a cameo in the movies. There was, it makes me by being mentioned.
Yep.
And whatnot. But yeah, this was them. They found out about the machine invasion of Zion, and they had to warn, well, Zion.
yeah, they had to warn Zion that it was coming so they could.
Yeah, but the problem was they have to transmit, and the problem is they're going to light themselves up when they're already been discovered. They're pretty much now on a suicide mission.
Yep.
And yeah, that's pretty much it's a short. This staying alive long enough while everyone slowly dies until the message is sent out.
Yep.
That's it. And it opens with a sword fight thing, which is just clearly titillation, and that's it.
Yeah, that opening sword fight is just
Square Enix, everyone.
Yep. You say this was just after the other movie that they had just done, Spirits Within?
Yeah, more or less, very closely after, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
For the time, and for what it was.
Okay, a couple years later, yeah.
Yeah. For what it was, the CG and the animation it wasn't horrible, but it's one of those things that it doesn't compare nowadays, because now when we're doing CG stuff, we'll still like fully mocap it, and it was obviously not mocapped.
Nope. Definitely not.
But for not being mocapped, it wasn't actually that badly animated. It was all right, but it was one of those, you watch it and you go, yeah, and then the obvious titillation.
This is also this short actually sets up the old game, if you remember, the Enter the Matrix game.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Enter the Matrix game starts off with it, because at the end of this short they drop the message off in the mailbox, and the Enter the Matrix starts with them getting the package from the mailbox.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. And of course, Enter the Matrix takes place simultaneously as one of the movies, and you got that whole thing interweaving with each other. And
yeah, I never got the chance to play Enter the Matrix or Matrix Online.
Yeah, this is one of those weird things where it's like, this is one of the first real big attempts to try to interweave multiple multimedia franchise thing.
Oh yeah, it's
like kind of force you got to do all of it.
It was like wasn't there a couple years back there was this one TV series that they were trying to do that with, sci-fi TV series.
Yeah, they were doing that with.
But I think the idea was that events that happened in the game would also affect what would happen in the series,
something like that.
I don't think it lasted very long, because it turns out that's really hard to pull off successfully.
Yeah, a little bit, especially since players are very unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the one. It's the one they used really to draw a lot of people in initially. I guess they're just, even though I guess they're just banking, everyone just kind of forgot the Spirits Within kind of sucked. And yeah, that was the big one they were throwing in. This was but it's also one of the ones most directly tied to the movie trilogy.
Yeah,
although in a weird way. Well, several of them, I would say about half of them are directly tied to the movies, and the others are just kind of their own thing. In a way. Yeah, so then you get the second Renaissance, parts 1 and 2. The second Renaissance is the lore dump, essentially. It tells you the backstory of the Matrix. How did we get to the point where humanity is being used as batteries by machines in a really crappy, broken world, essentially?
Yep.
And it tells you basically, humans made machines, and then machines kind of going, hey, wait a minute. Why are we doing this whole slave labor thing? And then, the whole thing of a machine killed people, and then this be said, I didn't want it just because I didn't want to die, and blah, blah, blah. Then machines kind of relocated and did their own little nation, and then they started becoming big, huge manufacturing powerhouse, and everyone went, no, that's bad, and they tried to stop them, and then the machines fought back, and humanity lost.
Yep.
That's that's the basic history. And yeah, it shows kind of the whole brutal thing. Like, humans can be really brutal and awful to things they don't quite understand.
Or don't want to understand. Or that may threaten their position.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a lot of it too, was just threatening their position, especially when it became the business that they got really big in manufacturing. But, crap, we can't compete with this. Well, better go to war.
And this is also probably one of the single most graphic of all of the shorts.
Yeah, it
is. Because there's a lot of brutal stuff in this one.
It doesn't pull its punches.
Yeah, there's a bit where you see a machine crush someone's head in detail.
Yep.
There's a bit where they take, I guess, a machine girl, it's a robot girl, and they beat her to death, essentially.
Yep.
And at the same time, yeah, very, very violent, and your clothes are coming. Yeah, it's pretty disturbing.
Yep.
That sort of thing. Yeah, just them basically this weird, almost like celebrating in the destruction of the machines type of thing.
Yep.
And there's a whole bunch of very obvious symbolism with, mass graves and borrowing from elements of history and doing a lot better than, say, I don't know, Detroit. And that was what I was saying. But man, they did this way better than David Cage ever could hope to do.
Which, to be fair, not a very high bar.
Yeah, that bar's in the ground, man.
So about that Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Good job. You trust the Star Wars. Well, apparently it's not David
Apparently
Cage,
not David Cage, but it's still Quantic Dream.
Possibly. We don't know for sure.
We don't know. It's Quantic Dream, so there's still a worrisome element. Anyway.
I'm concerned. You're doing me concerned.
Giving me a frightened.
Yeah, the whole thing there. So it's very... The art style is very interesting too. It actually works pretty well, I would say. It's this one is also done. This was Studio 4C.
Yep.
Known for a lot of things, including
they did a bunch of stuff on Halo Legends.
Yep. Thundercats. Hey, look, the Animatrix. Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, they do a lot. They tend to do a lot of Western stuff, like in general. They've done a lot of the DC comics, like movies and whatnot. So yeah, they do things like that. But yeah, they did a pretty darn good job here. It's, I would argue, in many ways, this is probably the best of all the shorts, just because of between just visual presentation and just the actually genuinely interesting lore stuff.
Yeah, I'm not certain I put it at the top, just because it being a lore dump, I kind of want to categorize it different, and then the other ones it would be like comparing apples and oranges. But it is definitely up there. And one of the ones that I found the most interesting, because I am interested in lore and such like that too.
Yeah, another thing about it, just simply, it's just the whole thing. Like, one of the early lines in the short is, humanity were the architects of their own demise, type of thing. And yeah, it's just
Architect.
Yeah, including eventually the turning the humans into batteries and all that stuff, which, as many people pointed out, is very inefficient. So that it kind of, you very much read it as this is very much a very petty thing on the machine's part after the humanity tried to outright wipe the machines out.
Yep.
So it's one of those things.
Yep.
Especially after multiple times the machines tried to,
to do this peacefully.
Do everything peacefully. They came to the humans. They're like, let's do something that's mutually beneficial. And humanity went, no. Well,
different is bad.
Anyway, we don't know. It's one of those broad strokes things because you can't know the feelings of like 7 billion plus people.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. And then, of course, leads to the Matrix and blah, blah, blah.
Actually, it did explain that there was a bunch of humans that did support the machines.
Yeah, there was that too.
Right near the beginning of during the first million machine march. Yeah.
Again, borrowing from history.
Yeah.
It's a little ham-fisted, but does it a little better than other
I know artists
attempts.
who use subtlety.
Yeah.
They are all cowards.
Yeah, so very interesting, the most graphic of all of them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
As well, but it's very interesting, and it's often I see a lot of people put it as the best, the one to check out of all of them.
Yep, because it gives you the most direct lore and backstory that directly explains and ties in
and presents it really well too.
Yeah, but ties in probably the most with the movies.
Yeah, and then you got Kid's Story, which is about a high school kid who in the movie is known as Kid.
No, it's Kid.
Yeah, But apparently his name is Michael in the simulation. Yeah, he's the thing. Well, something's just wrong with the world. One of those things. A lot of people have that feeling, which is what leads to real life conspiracy theories about simulations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he feels like something's wrong with the world, and then it's like he gets contacted by I guess the crew from the movies, and they're like, they know that you need to get out of there.
Yep.
And then he runs away, and then he jumps off a building and somehow is able to wake himself up out of the Matrix. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. And then, that explains where the kid from the movies came from.
Yep.
He's just is basically a backstory of a minor character from the third movie. Yeah, I think he appeared in the second one too. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if he shows up in the second. It's been a while.
Yeah, he did. He was appeared in both.
Yeah.
And just there's a backstory for a minor character. It's kind of, again, very interesting art style. This one is the one that kind of looks at times like a pencil sketches.
Yeah.
It was very similar to the old, what was it, the 101 Dalmatians from Disney, where they just clean up the old sketch lines, essentially. That's what it looked like.
Yep.
Often just also weird stretchiness and whatnot throughout as well.
Yeah, very, very interesting art style.
Visually appealing, I would say, actually.
I liked this one. There was a few times you get those really weird art styles that don't quite click with me, but this one I did like.
Yeah, because this one was part just the kid asking the kind of same questions that Neo did in the original movie, and then part just running away from the agents. And it's really basic at that point, but it visually looks really good, and it's a very well choreographed, I would say, chase scene and everything.
Yep.
So in that regard, it's a really good one in that regard. It's really basic as well, and again, it's all for a very minor character and kind of makes him kind of weirdly special too. But you forgive that because it's entertaining.
It is entertaining.
And this whole thing, that's a funeral scene. Oh, he's dead, and they're talking about how it's just a way of people coping. They'll talk about alternate worlds or whatever because they're just trying to cope with the fact their life sucks or whatever.
Yeah.
And it turns out no, there's a reason for that because it's just, it really is. The world is fake because it is.
It is. It's all simulation.
Do I live in a simulation?
The Matrix has you.
It's interesting and visually, yeah. Still that weird thing. It's just like late 90s thing. It's like everyone's working with green text. Yeah. All text.
Yep.
Real hackers don't use GUIs.
Yep. All text and all green on black.
And the next one is Program, which is pretty much the excuse to let's have one of the shorts to be in feudal Japan.
Yep.
It's a big, because the whole thing is this is your favorite simulation. Because there's all that weird sub simulation, and then on the ships and stuff they can use to I guess train themselves and whatnot. But if it's feudal Japan, and that's basically the whole thing is like this woman, she's fighting, I guess training with someone she knows, and they're like, oh no, and this guy is like, and he's like, oh hey, I totally betrayed humanity because I think this all sucks now, and she's like no, and then they fight, and then she kills him, and then she wakes up. It turns out it was all a test.
Yep.
Which she passed, but she, surprise, she didn't really like that. And Dex, the guy who, it's like, cool, you did it.
DiMaggio.
And then, So it's a thing. It's, again, very visually interesting. It does a lot of cool, just that weird stuff that you can actually happen in the Matrix thing, infinite doors and stuff like that. So it looks really cool. Again, it very much feels like, I want to do feudal Japan. It just very much feels like an excuse to do something kind of
like that one short from Halo Legends with the really water paint kind of art style.
I just want to do feudal Japan
and make them
have an excuse. It's just it's a simulation, and that one of the characters just really likes.
Yeah.
So again, it's more or less just an extended fight scene with some vaguely philosophical waxing in it. A little bit. It's very lightweight on that one because it's mostly like what's better, what's better, knowing the truth or just being blissfully ignorant and happy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then of course hitting the temptation of just going, being happy rather than I guess being right.
Yeah. Which
it is tempting, it's like knowing the truth tempting. Or being happy, and if it sometimes it winds up being a binary, and whether or not which is actually better, that sort of thing. It's an interesting philosophical discussion right there.
Yep. And where would the Matrix be without interesting philosophical discussions?
Half the thing. And then, sometimes people then, do the thing with the... where they misunderstand the whole message and then co-opt imagery and use it for terrible things.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And this one was done by Madhouse.
Yeah. This was Madhouse. Oh yeah, the other one, I forgot. Kid Story was done by Studio 4C as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if this refresher, Madhouse has done a lot of stuff.
Yes. Did they do Death Note?
I think they were on that one. Yes, yes, they were on Death Note. Strawberry Panic was one of them.
Yeah, they have a laundry list of things that they've done. They're well known. What?
High School's Dead. Place Further Than Universe.
That was a good one.
Yeah, they've done again a lot of the stuff. They keep popping up. So the character's name is Sis. I was like, against Duo. It's like, again, it makes you wonder because knowing what you know about the Matrix thing. It's a trans allegory. Stupid.
The interesting one is program wasn't written by the Wachowskis like the other.
Some of them were. Some of them were not.
The other. But all three of the other ones that we've talked about were Wachowski.
Yeah, but I believe they were produced. Yeah, they were producers on the whole thing, so everything got passed. At least passed in front of their eyes before it was approved.
Yeah. So yeah, it's totally possible.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, and it's also possible they kind of gave some vague notes, and then the writers ran with it.
Yeah, yep.
Because that's sometimes what you do, especially because they kind of they're the architects of the Matrix.
They are the architects of the Matrix.
Yeah, so that whole thing. But yeah, beyond that, it's just kind of more or less just a kind of a cool feudal Japan fight scene.
Yep.
And some light philosophy. The next one is a world record, which this one is the weird one, I think, in many ways.
Yeah.
It stands out in a weird way, and I think it's the one a lot of people aren't really too hot on for that. It's about a runner, he's competing in the Olympics and stuff, which, vague which one, because again, the Matrix is just at the peak of humanity, whenever that is.
The late 90s.
Late 90s, early 2000s-ish time frame. They don't really address the whole when do they reset thing or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, there's this whole thing, like sometimes some people kind of discover the Matrix through unique means and stuff. Any which way, he's this athlete who was he set a world record time, but then it was revoked and got a gold medal, but it was revoked because apparently drug use. But he wants to break that record again, to basically prove everyone wrong and everything. And then the problem is his trainer saying, yeah, you're pushing yourself too hard. You're not be able to run anymore if you do this again. You can't do this. And he's like, I'm gonna do it. I gotta prove myself. And and there's agents there because apparently somehow they know he's about to make a breakthrough of some sort. And his whole thing, he starts running, but the problem is then he messes up his leg, but he keeps going anyway. And across the finish line, he set a big old world record of 8.72 seconds, which is a big deal for him. And then, but it looks like everything's fine. But he also sees the code.
Yeah, he starts seeing the code, and then he kind of wakes up.
Starts waking up a bit, and then he gets snapped back into the Matrix, and now he's like crippled for life. And they're like he kind of erased his memory, and so it's not a big deal. But then he kind of seems like he actually does remember some of it anyway.
Yep. It's kind of vague.
Yeah.
It doesn't really explain much, and it causes more questions than answers.
And it's also got a very unique art style.
Very unique art style. Even though it's still Madhouse, it's a very unique art style.
Yeah, very unique on that one. I think it's the oddest, one of the odder ones of the bunch.
Yeah.
It doesn't have much to do with anything, and it's kind of a weird story of like someone who almost figured it out accidentally
by running.
Yeah, it feels again very much an excuse to just have a very unique art style showed off, and just kind of this weird, it is really smooth animation because of the nature of it, but
right.
It's just kind of an odd story overall.
Yeah,
and I can see what they're trying to do, but I don't think they quite succeeded, and that's why I think this is also one of the weaker ones.
It is
because of all that. It's one of those. It's really kind of interesting, but falls short in that regard. And so it's like, it's fine, I guess.
It's fine.
It's definitely, I would say, one of the weaker ones.
Yeah, I don't think any of these are bad.
No.
But some are weaker than others.
Yeah. And then you got Beyond, which is an interesting one in that about a teenager named Yoko is looking for a cat, Yuki, and she winds up in a haunted house thanks to a bunch of boys just hanging around. It's like, maybe the cat's over there at the haunted house. And so they go to the haunted house, which apparently is actually just a bunch of glitches in the Matrix. So a lot of things are, basically, when you're in a video game, you find that rock that will launch you or whatever. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, physics just kind of breaks down there, and
like
they can kind of play with it.
People all of a sudden become like literally 100th of their own weight or whatever, and stuff like that.
and they seem to be able to enact some level of control over it that they didn't normally.
And there's a bunch of kids just having weird fun, and then the agents come along and go, oh, we got to fix this, and kick them all out, and then they fix it, and now it's just a parking lot, and weird thing. And there's also one more anomaly, which was kind of a weird, creepy one, and then it's all just over. So that's interesting one. Just again, it's visually very interesting. A lot of these are visually interesting.
Yeah, I liked this one.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's also Studio 4C.
Yeah, Studio 4C. I love the art direction on this one. I love the style. I love how they played it up, how everything just worked through, the sort of mystery to it.
Yeah.
I liked it.
There's also the implication that in the Matrix, the idea is a lot of the supernatural stuff is just basically a glitch.
Yep.
And that whole thing. So it's just kind of the messing around until the agents come along and kick them out and whatnot. And so it's just weird stuff like, stuff like a flickering light bulb that's shattered. The bulb itself shattered, but somehow it flickers back into existence over and over again. Or like rain from a sunny sky with
just from a hole in the roof.
Yeah.
It's raining and just down the hole in the roof. Or they can break a bottle and then it reforms.
Yeah, break a bottle and then it
things just
rewinds.
It rewinds.
And they're trying to catch it when it bounces back and stuff like that.
Like jumping off of the roof and then stopping right before you hit the ground.
Yeah, and it just winds up being these kids messing around in this kind of interesting place with a very interesting art style. It's a really nice one. It's just, again, there isn't really a story.
There's not really an explicit story to it, but it's one of those that it puts ideas in your head.
It's just that.
It's one of those subtle lore things that here's an idea, have fun.
Yeah.
And it kind of builds. It's one of those you watch it and you go, oh, that's neat, and it starts making the wheel turn in your head, and you start extrapolating and building upon it. I love things like that. My brain loves to run with that.
Yeah, that thing as one of those things where she opened that door and it was just nothing.
Just nothing.
It's like, just imagine you open a door and it's just a hole in the world. Just a hole into an existence.
So that's an SCP.
So, again, visually interesting but light on story, but it's still really nice to watch.
Yeah.
And then you got a detective story, this one is actually also really interesting in and of itself. It's about a detective, and it's very presented in very much a noir fashion, so very much black and white, almost. Well,
almost. Not quite, but
very very muted color scheme, to the point of there's barely any color ever. But the whole thing, a private detective gets the call to look for a hacker named Trinity. And he's hunting the Trinity down and whatnot, and finds out other detectives had met various bad ends from doing so, and eventually is able to track Trinity down, finds out who Trinity is, and she's there. Kind of there's implication that he's could almost be another person to recruit into, I guess, the cause, so to speak.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, the agents show up, and he starts taking over the detective's body, his Ash there, and Trinity has to shoot him to get away and make sure that agent doesn't appear, because why would an agent appear in someone who's about to die?
Yep.
And so on and so forth. And she's like, yeah, you could have handled it, but then he's just sitting there and he's gonna pulls a gun on the agents as they come in, and then it's ends.
And it ends.
Again, visually very interesting in many ways, including the odd attempt to make it look like the 1930s or so, even though it's not. In many ways, like aesthetically, like his computer keyboard is like an old typewriter and stuff, and a lot of the cars and stuff you see are very vintage 30s style stuff and whatnot, even though clearly it's not, because Trinity's there. And and again, he's on the computer looking for hacker.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting how they kind of just make it look like it's the 30s and whatnot, and it's really well done, honestly.
It is. The art style, like I said, is interesting, but it's really cool to look at. It's not hard to look at. It doesn't hurt the eyes, but the execution of the story, it's nice and smooth. It plays really well. It's fun.
Yeah. Again, though, it's just kind of it's very noir presentation, including narration and everything.
And it's a dark and stormy night.
Yeah. It's just kind of it's very interesting in that way, and I really do like it a lot. And of course, it really leans heavily more into the like Alice in Wonderland stuff that was used in the movies.
Yep.
It really leans hard in that one, because that's how Ash there discovers Trinity and all that stuff, and almost makes it, I guess.
Yeah.
Almost,
but not quite.
Yep. And yeah, it's one of those things. It's like we don't see how it ends really, but we kind of know how it ends.
A person with a non-unplugged person with a bullet wound is not going to be able to shoot an agent.
Yep. Especially when they're alerted to him.
Yeah.
And whatnot, but still it's really well done ending and everything. It's just really well done overall and just really visually interesting and whatnot.
Yep.
So then we get to, I guess, the final one, Matriculated, which is about a group of humans who are living not in the Matrix. They're out in the world, and apparently crashed one of the crash ships or something.
Yeah, it looks like it.
And they kind of have their own little simulation running where they capture the robots or the machines when they come after them, and then plug them into this thing in order to try to get them to learn more positive traits and try to get them to, I guess, switch sides of their own volition.
Sort of. Yeah, in a weird way.
Any which way, they do that to one of the machines, but the machine also was able to plant a tracker, which means more machines came and just wrecked the place, and everyone dies except the machine.
Yep.
Who did converted, but it was like, it's really basic again. It's really basic, and I feel like this one is very much an excuse to just have really trippy visuals, and basically it's put a machine on an acid trip.
Yep, that's basically what it was.
And that's it. It's not really a particularly amazing one. I would actually say this is the one I'm like, I don't really care that much about it. I think it is the weakest one just because it's very much reliant on just using really trippy visuals and not much else.
Yeah, I wasn't enthralled by Matriculated.
Oh, by the way, Detective Story is also Studio 14. This one is DNA Productions, which I'm going to look up what else they have done.
Yeah.
All of the other reindeer. Oh, DNA. They did Jimmy Neutron.
Oh.
That's why I recognize the name.
Adventures of Jimmy Neutron.
Was that them? Was it really the same one, or is it a different DNA Productions? Because that seems weird.
Oh.
At least according to Wikipedia, it says it's the same one, but it doesn't look like it's the same one.
Yeah.
Something's
I
up.
don't know.
It looks like it might be just a happenstance.
Could be. I don't know, but this is the one that was different than the rest, and they also they worked with a bunch of other studios with this one as well, so it wasn't just DNA. Yeah, like you said, it really just relies on the trippy visuals, and I mean, I guess they look pretty, but the rest of it was just kind of
okay, there we go.
Kind of threadbare, kind of meh.
There we go. Yeah, it's two different DNA Productions, but yeah, they've
Hooray.
mostly done Western media. Let's see, Chronicles of Riddick.
Oh, geez.
Diablo 3. Mazik.
Interesting.
I see something called Mazik, the Myth, Tomb Raider. They did some Tomb Raider stuff, apparently, back in the late 2000s as well. Huh.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's a thing. Two different companies called DNA. Yeah, and that's what threw me. It's like, well,
yeah, the link in Wikipedia is probably just broken.
Not broken, it's just wrong.
Just pointing to the wrong one.
Someone made an assumption. Oopsie doodles. Yeah, anyway, this one is just kind of like all the humans die, the robot's just kind of by himself, kind of feeling sad, I guess, and yeah, because the machine tries to plug in one of the girl who I guess initially captured him because like they connected somehow, and I guess tries to plug her in, but she's dying in the process because and then or something. Yeah, it's
odd.
Or something happens. It's a thing. It's kind of weak.
It is.
And like I'm just like about it because it's just it got some really nice visuals, I guess, but at the same time they look weirdly dated for even by 2003 standards.
Yeah,
they look like they're made in the mid 90s. I'm like wondering what the heck's going on with this one. I don't
know. It's I don't know.
I don't find it to be particularly nice or not particularly great short. It's definitely, I would absolutely say it is the weakest of all of them, just because it's not particularly interesting outside of the visual stuff, which kind of almost wears its welcome out kind of quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's just kind of overall. And that's the one on the disc version. That's the last one you watch, which can be like, oof. It can really kind of might almost. It's one of those weird things that the last one could sour the whole thing or whatever.
Yeah, you have to watch out when you're dealing with any series of things. people will almost always remember the first and the last.
In this case, the final fight of the Osiris is also the last one on the cinema version, so that's, which is kind of in of itself just kind of all right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those, you either get all right or kind of
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, this one is not particularly great in my opinion, and it's the one I would honestly just skip more often. Not.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorites are definitely a Second Renaissance, detective story. Those two particularly. Beyond's pretty fun, but yeah, I would also say the weakest is like Matriculated and World Record.
You're right. I think I'm almost about the same, except I think I put Beyond a little higher because I did really like that.
Yeah, Final Five Osiris is just kind of it's there.
That and Program are just kind of
They're there.
They're in the middle.
Kids Stories also visually really interesting if basic.
Yeah, I think I put Kid Story above some of the other ones just because
it's in the upper half.
It's in the upper half. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 9 of them, I guess. Well, yeah, I guess there's 9 of those. One's a two-parter. Yeah. I don't know. It's all very interesting.
Yep,
for sure.
Yep.
But none of them are outright bad, but definitely one of them is
kind of more.
One or two of them definitely noticeably weaker than the others.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. And then it's an anthology series. This happens, It's just how it is. An anthology series is always going to have weaker and stronger elements to it because of the different creators.
Yep. And some of them are going to play to some people's strengths more than others.
And and it's one of those things where someone else might really favor, but look at the animation. This one isn't so great, and why you rate it so low? Well, that wasn't really that enthralled by that.
Because it wasn't the animation that I was looking for. I wanted the story.
Or whatever. I don't know. Or someone will go, well, I don't really like this one, but look how great it looks, they'll say. This one's so bland and nothing happens, but it looks so cool.
Sometimes that's fine.
Yeah.
Like Pacific Rim. The story is worthless, but that's not why you go watch Pacific Rim. You watch it because you want to see big robots punching big monsters.
Yeah. But big monster. So, yeah, definitely, if you haven't already seen it, which is a good chance you have in the last 20-ish years since, well, actually 18, but still almost 20 years since it came out. I mean, why not check it out now, considering the fourth Matrix is coming,
Yeah. Get caught up on the lore.
As the Matrix is, the Matrix Resurrections is about to hit as of this recording. It comes out on, the 18th of December.
Yep.
So, maybe just get all caught up, have some fun, watch the Matrix movies, watch this. See if you can get the old games to work. Enter the Matrix.
Yeah, Matrix Online. Well, I mean, the servers are gone, so good luck.
I think people have gotten that to work on private servers, though.
That would be the question, is if they, because I know there's been a lot of, I don't know that much about Matrix Online in its history, but I know creating private servers to keep those things running is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know one of the big ones was like World of Warcraft. A lot of people were creating private servers for that to keep that one running.
Blizzard came it was more or less they wanted the old versions to keep running, not so much because World of Warcraft is still active as of now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the original World of Warcraft.
But I remember like City of Heroes is the big one that people kept trying to keep running after it died.
Yep.
So yeah, it's overall very interesting. Overall, and definitely worth checking out. Even if as a curiosity, it's worth checking out, I would say. But I think there's also some genuinely good stuff in here as well, even if there's a couple duds.
Yeah.
Where can you get it? I had to go to YouTube. You can buy it there.
Yeah, there's a YouTube you can buy and rent. There's like you said, there's a Blu-ray, isn't there?
There is a Blu-ray. I'm not sure if it's out of print or not. It came out quite a few years ago, I think, at this point. I believe they just released it, though, because of the upcoming fourth one.
I vaguely remember seeing it in Walmart a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you might have seen it.
So
yeah, I saw it too, but I think it was a DVD set. Of
I think that's what it was.
Movies, so
I've been seeing like the first Matrix in the $5 DVD bin.
It's on Amazon Prime. It's on YouTube. It's on all those services. I don't think it's on a streaming service, unfortunately, as far as I know. I don't see anything anyway. But it's on a couple of the you can just buy it, and it's relatively cheap. It's like we're talking about $5 or less.
Yeah,
it's not
It's not expensive at all.
Yeah, it's not expensive. Oh, it is on HBO Max. Okay, so if you have HBO Max, you can watch it there, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, but yeah, there you go. It's a streaming service if you have that.
There are technically legal ways of getting it that are relatively simple.
Relatively simple, relatively cheap, and there you go.
Yep.
Worth checking out, at least if you haven't already, or just worth a rewatch if you haven't. It's like for me, it's been like literally over a decade since you've seen it last.
I hadn't seen it all until now. Just little bits and pieces of things here and there.
So yeah, that's it for this one, I guess.
I guess.
Our second anthology look. I think it worked out pretty well.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of technically out of order, but that's just how the things we're tying them into, really. So that's just how it is.
Yeah, we're lining up with that.
Yeah, I'm just glad Halo Infinite wound up being really good, because that would have been weird. It's like, oh, cancer. It turns out, oh man, I would hate it if it turned out to be awful. I'll be dying inside.
Yeah.
But it turns out to be great.
Yep.
Hopefully the Matrix new one turns out to be good too.
Yep.
Although I'm hearing some very weird mixed reactions on
which
the
I've also heard
previews.
Can sometimes be a good thing, especially with depending on what kind of mixed reactions and who's giving them.
Exactly. I've heard some weird things about it, but anyway, I definitely want to see it.
Yeah.
Just need to figure out how I want to see it, because going to theater is still kind of weird right now.
It is.
But anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out other episodes, you go to newtoweeaboo.libsyn.com. That's spelled Libsyn. If you want to see episodes as they come out, you're going to subscribe via the RSS feed. You can also subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or Amazon Podcasts, and search for us on any of those services and subscribe or whatever. Most of those, you can click the button at the top of the Libsyn site, and do all that stuff. If you like to contact us, you can do so via email, newtoweeaboo@gmail.com, if you have questions or comments or anime suggestions or whatever. And yes, we do listen. Sometimes we may not act on it, or sometimes it may take us a while to act on it, but we do listen and whatnot if you give us a suggestion or two. That's a thing. Also, what'd you think of the Animatrix at all? Were you a big fan of it? Did you not like it? I don't know. Are we wrong about certain ones? We didn't get it? We didn't understand the subtle symbolism or whatever?
Symbolism.
There's that whole thing. And of course, you can also follow us on Twitter @NewToWeeaboo if you want to follow us there and see new episodes that come out, and sometimes random musings about anime or something. There's also personal Twitters. I'm at Prime1, and he's at Alcatraz770 and an underscore at the end. I'm still tweeting robot stuff because I'm still releasing and reviews on robot stuff.
And I don't tweet much. I just lurk.
Yep, just lurks.
Lurking.
So good news. Your time won't be clogged by him. Ever.
Until I randomly decide to start retweeting Miku or something.
Yeah, which
it would be par for the course if I do decide to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if he does that, then we'll at least it's kind of aligns with your interests, probably.
Potentially. I mean, Miku's not technically anime.
No, but it's Weebish.
It is Weebish, yes.
So you got that whole thing. So that's it. Tune in next time. We'll be talking about actually an thing we kind of talked about before. It's Akudama Drive. Yeah, remember we did that way back when? One of the seasonal things. We're actually going to talk about the whole thing. We've been meaning to do this with a lot of this stuff for a while. We just kind of haven't. And so we'll just start with this one.
Yep.
Why not?
Why not?
So that's the one. Check it out when we do that, like later this month.
Yep.
I think it's going to be just coming out. Yeah, it's coming out right at the end of the month. So there's that. So hope to see you then, and hope you enjoyed, and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Set